stand with Kid Rowley. For the love of your country, make sure you vote for the P&M family.
Great is the P&M. Great is the P&M. Great is the P&M. And we have prevailed.
He's the most experienced prime minister this country has ever seen. No prime minister has experienced what one. William never lose an election. William was never in opposition. Chambers was never in opposition. His first experience, he lost his first election in Tobago. He's the only prime minister. He lost his first election in Tobago. He was in the opposition. He was in the Senate. He was in the House. He was a minister. He's the most experienced prime minister.
Yeah, well, he's like every political leader. You could approach him.
Well, yes, he's a people's person.
You know, while other prime ministers would see a mistake and deal with it in a particular way, he's coming straight to you. He coming straight to you and say, I don't like that. And then you'll have a discussion with him, and at the end of the day, however it goes, it matters settled.
Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, as the current leader of Trinidad and Tobago, has been in politics since 1981, which is about 41 years. He has a significant amount of experience, a tremendous amount of knowledge, and some very specific areas of focus during his tenure. So, for example, he would have been involved in agriculture. As an agriculture minister, he would have been involved in planning. Vision 2020 was part of what he had to be involved in. He was involved in housing at the time when we were expanding in Trinidad and Tobago the housing stock. And he was involved in trade at the time when we were looking at opportunities overseas. And of course, he sat in financial institutions at the regional level, where he was a governor of the Caribbean Development Bank and also the Inter-American Development Bank. These positions, these experiences prepared him for what occurred in 2010, where as the PNM was defeated and the leadership changed, Dr. Rowley was elected as the opposition leader and then confirmed as the political leader of the People's National Movement. And I think that is where the challenge began.
I, Keith Christopher Rowley, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as Prime Minister and to do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will.
Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley assumed office at a time where, as I said, our fortunes were really not very robust. So the PNM-led government came in 2015 to a situation where there was little money in the coffers. The PNM-led government, because it could no longer afford all of these expenditures, started to tweak the GATE program, so to speak. So the first thing they did, the PNM government introduced this GATE means test, saying that if you really fall within that band of persons who want access to tertiary education, but your social and economic circumstances kind of make it a little difficult, let us assess you, you go through this means test, and we will provide you with some measure of support. During their tenure, 2015 to 2020, the first period, they reduced VAT from 15% to 12.5%. They essentially, later on in their tenure, introduced more zero-rated goods, so that basic foods were zero-rated, essentially a way of ensuring that the vulnerable population were not too traumatized by the increases in prices, so to speak. The other thing that the PNM, I think, is also fairly famous for was taking the hard decision to close Petrotrin. We're into 2022, and there is the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which is impacting on several things. Oil and gas prices, but also food shortages, supply chain shortages. So we are faced with, the government is getting, as it were, some reprieve because of that situation between Russia and Ukraine, because the price of energy skyrockets. So we get some fiscal space, and the government is able in its midterm review a couple months ago in 2022 to report that it has earned some revenue, so it's now able to come and try to steady the ship. The PNM is also credited with our Vision 2030, which essentially now is our national development strategy, how the country is meant to move forward from when they assumed office in 2015 to the year 2030, which is more or less around the corner, and they identified different pillars that they wanted to work towards and how we were going to address environmental and social issues as well as economic issues in terms of how we would navigate the national space moving forward.
Dr. Rowley built around the savannah and assisted and build up San Fernando and so on. Tobago get the most. Because the whole of the east of Tobago has been developed under Dr. Rowley. They have hospitals, they have fire station, libraries, the whole of Tobago East. Dr. Rowley developed the whole of Tobago East. And they can't deny that, you know. And he made the sea bridge very, very accommodating now. We went through a lot of horrors when it broke down and just break down and contraction. But now, you don't hear any complaint coming from people from Trinidad or Tobago about the passage between here and Tobago by the sea. A long time around the savannah, all those buildings, the Magnificent Seven, how it was run down, all now restored. QRC has been restored, all under Dr. Rowley.
So in March 2020, the country is witnessing and participating in a once-of-a-lifetime global event, the pandemic that was COVID-19, that is COVID-19, and the government having to make hard decisions in terms of closing our borders and all of the anxiety that came with that, the unemployment that ensued because businesses had to be closed as a means of containing the spread of the virus.
Dr. Rowley appears to have had the most difficult tenure as Prime Minister, especially during this COVID thing. And this is not a political remark. I am seeing it from as a civilian, as a citizen, sorry. And looking at how the government has handled the pandemic. I can only give them the thumbs up for that.
But he's more of a sportsman than all the other prime ministers. Well, he's a golf player.